All these sessions are recorded and will be streamed live to YouTube. Just keep that in mind, even these extra sessions. And anything, the slides, cheat sheets, and demos, everything we talk about today can be found in the course materials folder, which I will link to here. All right, so what we want to go over today, just a couple things as a quick intro to a few things that are worth knowing about downloading and installing the desktop version of CompuCell. We'll have some time for questions if anybody has tried to do that and is having trouble with the installers. We can see about looking into figuring that out. I want to go over a brief discussion of the hackathon. We want people to start thinking about that early, so we've got a couple things on that. And then there will be hopefully a little bit of time for any other questions you may have about the course coming up this week. So first things first, we are going to be using CompuCell3D on nanoHUB throughout the week. We recommend that you use it through nanoHUB. If you'd really like to use a local installation, that's okay. But like we were talking about earlier, if you weren't here, it's still good to get signed up for nanoHUB and know where CompuCell is on nanoHUB. That way, if something does start to go wrong with your installation, you have a very quick backup through the nanoHUB version of CompuCell that you can switch to until we have time to troubleshoot your issues. So I recommend you use nanoHUB, but a few things to know if you are going to install CompuCell locally. You can get CompuCell through the CompuCell website at the following link, which I'm going to post in the chat. On the source bin folder, we're just going to go over the installer for Windows today. If you have other questions about Mac or Linux, please feel free to email us. We can try to get to those as soon as possible. But you'll just click on the most recent release, which is CompuCell 4.3.1. Download the file and run the executable. Something just as a heads up, so sorry, you'll be taken to SourceForge to download the package through the link on our website. You just download the latest version there. Then you run the executable after you've downloaded it. Something important to know is the executable will flag the Windows security system. The certificate is fine. It just doesn't line up exactly with what Windows is looking for because we're an independent software. So what you do here when it gives you this window, the only option at first is don't run. You'll want to click more info, and then that will tell you what it is, who it's from, and will give you the option to run anyway. So something important to know there is it'll flag this for you. Don't worry, it's fine. It's just something having to do with Windows wanting certain certificates that not all software has. Also, following this, you'll need to say yes to the UAC prompt that pops up. So the thing comes up and asks if the app can make changes to your computer. You'll have to approve that as well. So then you'll be taken to fairly straightforward CompuCell installation wizard. Just click next on start, choose where you want to install it. Just letting it install to the C drive is what we usually do, but if you have a specific place you want it to go, you can specify there. And then you'll just hit install. The installation does take a little while. The installer runs a little bit slowly. I've re-downloaded the new version of CompuCell last night and installed it on my computer, and it took about 10 minutes, which is fairly long these days for an installation. Just know that that's normal. It will sit kind of at this stage about a quarter of the way through the installation bar for a good amount of time. So don't worry about that. That's pretty normal. It will also throw up a command prompt. So this command prompt will pop up and start running commands at roughly, again, that 1/4 mark. Don't worry about this. It's normal. Again, do not close this either because it needs to complete in order for the installation to finish. So if the command prompt pops up a couple of times during installation, just let it do its thing. Don't worry about it. It will close when it's finished installing. Once it's done, you'll have your start menu shortcuts. You can start CompuCell either by launching the player, which is, do I have a laser pointer here? I don't remember how to get the laser pointer. Anyway, you can just run the CompuCell3D app, and that will launch the CompuCell3D player, or you can launch directly into Twedit, which is the CompuCell Python editor, Python and XML editor. Launching with Twedit is a little bit faster, but it will still have to load the player when you launch the player. So if all you need to do is edit some documents or edit some code, launch through Twedit. Otherwise, if you want to do a full launch, you can launch through the CompuCell3D app itself. And again, like with the installation, this command prompt will pop up as it's loading CompuCell into RAM. That's normal. And again, don't worry about that and don't close it until it is finished launching. Or actually don't close it at all, because that will actually close CompuCell. And then here we have the player window on the left and the Twedit editor on the right, just to give you an idea of what they look like and what you can expect to see when you launch each one respectively. So that, again, just a very quick rundown of what to expect when you're installing, because there's a couple of things that are a little bit different from maybe other software that you've installed in the past with the command prompt pop-ups and things like that. So just giving people who aren't used to this kind of stuff a little bit of a heads up. If your computer seems to be doing weird things, it's all normal once you run the installer, don't worry. So I wanted to take a couple of minutes. If anybody has any questions or has had any problems installing CompuCell, we can just note them here so we can maybe start looking into them. Free to put them in the chat or use the raised hand option. So Darshan asks, does the version on nanoHUB have any computation limitations? No, it does not. The servers that it's running on nanoHUB are pretty good. One thing that can happen here and there is if there's particularly high load on the nanoHUB servers, sometimes it can run a little bit slow. But in general, we don't really have any problems with that, even when we are all using it at the same time through this workshop. Again, because it is running on a remote server, the latency between you sending commands and the server responding will be obviously a little bit slower than a local copy. But computationally, no, nanoHUB shouldn't limit what you can do at all. One limitation that we will encounter is with copying and pasting into Twedit in nanoHUB. Because of the way the X11 interface works, it has a reserved remote clipboard, so you can't just copy from your desktop to Twedit in nanoHUB, but we'll talk about that tomorrow and show you some workarounds for how to deal with that. Any other questions before we move on? We can obviously help answer questions as they come up during the workshop. Just keep in mind that issues with CompuCell installations are probably not something we'll be able to take care of during the day. And there's no guarantee we can take care of them in the evening, because sometimes they can be a little bit complicated. We'll try as best as we can to get everything figured out in a timely manner. But like I said, just be prepared if you need to switch to the nanoHUB version of CompuCell while we try to figure out what's going on with your particular situation. I know the latest version of CompuCell has been causing a little bit of trouble with Macs in particular. So if you are using a Mac, having that nanoHUB backup ready would be especially useful, I think. Because we're still trying to get some of the bugs worked out with the Mac installation. Okay, so I think that's it for CC3D installation notes. Again, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to email me, James, or TJ about this, and we can work with you to get it sorted. So then to go over a little bit about the hackathon, because we do want people to start thinking about hackathon teaming early on through the workshop. Again, the hackathon is Saturday, August 6th and Sunday, August 7th. So the 2 days immediately following the week-long workshop. We already had 2 teaming meetings, which you can find on YouTube, which I'll link to in a minute here. I'll post a bunch of links for you at once. where we did hackathon project pitches. We did lightning talks where you can pitch your idea. It is not too late to put together an idea. If you do want to participate in the hackathon and have an idea for a project you might like to lead, we ask that you upload your project pitch to the shared folder. Again, I'll have links in a minute. And we will have a couple of opportunities throughout the week for you to present that idea and maybe start looking for group members. In those sessions, we can also help scope your projects for the hackathon. So if you have a large idea you think may be difficult to implement in 2 days, we can help you scope down to something that could be executable in the hackathon time limits. As far as organizing teams goes, these will be largely self-organized. We want people to work on the project they'd like to work on, but we are available to help suggest teams, and we will kind of put together maybe a preliminary list of people who are still looking for groups and make suggestions on which group they may be best suited to help with by the end of the day on August 2nd. And just another note to please work through the Slack channel. We have a hackathon, a dedicated hackathon channel in the Slack workspace where you can post your ideas and discuss grouping. And you are also welcome to create private channels for your group once you start getting some people on board. In the Slack, it's a good way to stay in touch in a more real-time manner than email. So I'm going to skip these next couple of details because I'm going to go over them in the next slide. But one thing I do want to note is this last point is that we will be available after the hackathon to continue helping with the support of your project. If it's something that you think you would like to continue pursuing afterwards, we've actually had a number of people from previous years go on to finish off their model that they started in the hackathon that turned into basically a publication quality model. A couple of them did get published after the fact. So if it's something that you'd like to pursue and maybe even look into getting published somewhere, we'd be happy to help you continue to work with that. AJ, I see a question in the chat. I'll come back around to that in just a minute here. So the hackathon schedule, these will be fairly intensive days made up mostly of just work time for you to work with your group on your project. We'll have a little bit of time up front on day one for organizing teams. We'll do a check-in in the middle of the day and a report at the end of the day on your progress so far. Day two, we'll start with a quick check-in. Again, another work block. Check-in in the middle of the day to see how things are going. Another large work block, and then final reports and discussion where we'll have you kind of present what you've got working of your model prototype so far. For teaming, so like I was saying, there's a hackathon channel in the Slack. I will post the Slack link again here in case you have not joined. If you have an idea for a project, you can go ahead and add it to the shared Google Doc. We have a Google Doc running where you can add your project description and your contact information to the document so people can find you. If you're interested in participating in a hackathon project but don't have a group, you can also add your information in the looking for group area so that people know that there are people available to help. And then you can upload your lightning talk for your project here. And like I said, we'll have some time for you to present early on during the workshop. And there is a template in that hackathon folder that you can use to structure your lightning talk. You do not have to have a project idea to participate in the hackathon. We're happy to have people join open groups. Or if you have an idea later in the week, that's okay too. There will be time to bring it up then as well. We have had a number of ideas suggested already. So these are the ideas that have been put in the shared document so far. I'm not going to go into too much detail here right now. You can check the shared document if you would like to learn more about each project. Each one has a description going so far. Like I said, though, we also had these teaming meetings where each of these people presented, plus a couple others that haven't made their way into the document yet. And those can be found at the links posted in the chat here if you would like to watch. And they are time stamped. So if you just want to jump straight to the lightning talks, you can do that using the timestamps in the description. If you would like some inspiration for project ideas, we have a list of publications that we think would be good to replicate in CompuCell. So these are experiments that have been run that we think would be suitable to replicating in a CompuCell model. If you just want to take a look over some of those, I'm putting a link in the chat here. So like I said, if you're feeling like you want to run a project, but you're not sure exactly what you want to do yet, these might be some good places to start. Okay, so let's see. Let me take a look at AJ's question real quick. Did you want me to run the survey for this module too, James? Or do we want to still do these polls for the extra sessions?
I think the thing we do need is the poll for the hackathon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and put up. We're going to put up a short 7-question hackathon participation survey. This is just to get an idea of how many people are thinking about participating and if you have ideas or not yet.
Yeah, please,
So please
everybody do respond. Everybody should respond. It's okay to say you're not interested or you don't know, but please respond. Otherwise, we don't know how to plan.
Yeah, and while people are filling that out, so AJ, is it AJ or Ajay?
Ajay.
Ajay, okay.
Yes.
I managed to miss both. Okay, so my CompuCell3D quits on my Mac every time I try running player from Twedit++. So this is not something that I personally have experience with, but maybe TJ. So version 4.3.1 was just rolled out, I think this past Tuesday. It's a fairly recent release. So there may be some additional bugs with Mac that we haven't had a chance to look at yet. One easy way of testing is you can actually get to previous versions, I think, through our website. We might recommend trying to install 4.3.0 and trying it there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'll try that. I had been using it on this Mac earlier, and then I suddenly started having this problem where every time I would, I think it happened after I downloaded the new version, which was the latest one, 3.1 or whatever, 4.3.1.
Okay.
I'll see if the problem goes away with an older version.
Yeah, TJ, is this a known bug?
This was a bug that we thought we resolved in the newest release, but apparently not. I'll say that if you don't have any issues with launching each of the apps independently, then probably you could get through the workshop with the newest version and just not using that functionality. Otherwise, version 4.2.5 will suffice for everything that we do during the week.
Okay, is this would there be a difference between the 3.0 and the 3.1, the last two?
Yeah, 4.3.1 has some other minor bug fixes, so it would be a little more stable, but apparently both minor versions have this bug that you're seeing.
Okay, and just to say, actually now it seems to have loaded, but last couple of days I had a very hard time loading either 3.0, 3.1. It would progress through the installation and then that hung up at some point where it was trying to resolve something, and there would just be a spinning, it's hard to describe in words.
Yeah, there are a couple of servers involved with the installation, and so your internet connection as well as the server performance can both affect your mileage there.
So if it gets hung up, we should just try again, basically.
Yes.
And one thing to say is that also sometimes I thought it was stuck and I would start fresh. So it creates a folder called CompuCell3D, which contains all the files. And if I start from scratch, it doesn't want to have that folder there. So the best thing is to, if I'm trying to redo it, just take the old folder, dump it into the trash, and start again.
Yes, that would be the cleanest way to do it.
Okay, thank you. Actually, one more question.
Sure.
Sorry. I noticed that the most recent versions I installed using the terminal on Mac, but the earlier versions which I had used last year did not do that. Can I have those two versions working simultaneously on a computer? So do you know what I mean? There was, I think, 4.2.5. I would just download it directly, and it didn't involve using the terminal, or I can't remember which version that was.
It is possible to have multiple installations, although highly discouraged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they can cause clashes, especially concerning your simulation source code.
Yeah.
Which is, what we would call apocalyptic when you end up destroying your own simulation by, causing clashes between versions.
Okay. I've been using it consistently for a while. It's just with these new downloads, I ended up having these problems, and I don't know whether the quitting of the CompuCell3D was related to that, or you had in your troubleshooting on your webpage something that says, if CompuCell keeps quitting, then try to look for this hidden file and delete something or the other. Can you elaborate on that, or if that's the problem I'm having, perhaps? Do you know what I'm talking about?
TJ, if you don't mind, if I jump in real quick, we'll come back to this in just a second, Ajay.
Please.
I just want to say it is 2:00. So if people want to go ahead on their lunch break, we'll reconvene at 2:45 for session 3. It sounds like some people are having issues with seeing the polls that we've been posting. One thing that we may want to try, that Zoom has actually updated the way that polls work within the last week or so. So one thing you may want to do over the lunch break is disconnect from the meeting and make sure that Zoom is updated. See if you can do a force check for updates, and then rejoin the meeting after that, just to make sure that we're not having issues with Zoom version incompatibilities with the polls. Otherwise, I'm not sure what would be causing that. But yeah, so anybody who does not have any other questions about CompuCell installs can feel free to break for lunch, and we'll see you back here at 2:45. Okay, so Ajay, back to you.
Thanks.
I was wondering on the install, are you installing it behind an NIH firewall? Is there a possibility that it's not able to do
That is a
the
possibility.
outbound reach to do the downloads?
Yeah, it is a possibility. It's a little bit complicated. I actually have a loaner computer from the NIH. I'm at home. It's complicated. It's a loaner that they allow you to take outside the country. So there may be some extra barrier on that one.
Yeah, it's certainly possible that there are some security features that are inhibiting your performance because the entire dependencies environment, which is about 2 gigabytes of data, all of that is retrieved remotely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had written to James earlier about how I was getting stuck at a particular point, but while this, I was attending the morning session, I noticed that in the background, whatever point it had gotten stuck, it had managed to go beyond that. And what I was trying to install is installed, but I'm back to the original problem where if I try to run something from Twidit, it makes the player quit. And so I'm back to some other problem it seems that I'm having. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, yeah, that is unfortunate. Do each of the apps work independently?
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, yeah, in that case, I'll say,
Well, no, actually, they don't. The player always quits if I try to run anything in it. So even if I just open the player and then I opened a particular simulation to run, and the moment I hit play, it quits.
Okay, that is a problem. I would be interested to hear if anyone else who's using Mac and is trying the local installation, if anyone else has that problem, because that is new to me.
I'll try it again because, as I said, I haven't really tested out the new installation that I just seems to have gotten installed on the computer. But maybe during this break, I'll try that out, and then I can maybe. Should I write back to you directly, TJ? Is that easier?
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat and say, try it out again. And if it crashes again, then if you could capture the error report and email it to me, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much.
No problem.